Again, Joe Rexrod, who was initially supposed to join us here, he has gotten bogged down with draft stories. Now he stepped off the plane from Dallas there in Nashville, so the Tennessean columnist will not be able to join us here, unfortunately. And, I wanted to talk to him about the Predators last night. Notice he did, however, write a very interesting story about why he felt the Predators were eliminated and why this team can't seem to get over the hump. I'll be talking about that in our next segment. But for right now, I said I wanted to talk a little baseball with you. And you heard it's the Reds and the Braves. They're playing in Cincinnati. And I've talked about this before, but interleague play destroyed the Braves-Reds rivalry. Now we can discuss if it was really a rivalry to begin with, but here's where it was a rivalry, the Tri-Cities, Tennessee and Virginia. Because the two teams around here are the Braves and the Reds. And they used to be in the same division. It didn't make any sense. But from 1969 to 1993, the Braves and the Reds were in the same division, but they were in the National League West. Meanwhile, the Cubs and Cardinals were in the East. Look at a map. Of course, back in those days also, the Atlanta Falcons were in the NFC West. I guess since the Baltimore Colts in the 60s were also in the Western Conference of the NFL, well, you get the idea. Anyway, see, they had moved from Dallas, and therefore, they only spent a year there, but it was just, they never got around to moving them, and, this sort of thing. All right. The situation that occurs now is that the Braves and Reds only play once a year at each other's venue, 6-7 times a year. For Tri-Cities baseball fans, I don't think that's enough. Now, admittedly, Major League Baseball is probably not going to change their schedule for the 102nd largest television market and shrinking. However, I do wonder this. If you wanted to be geographically correct in the National League, you would flip the Pirates and the Braves. How did the Pirates get to be in the Central and the Braves in the East in the first place? It was initially thought that the poor Pirates, not generating the revenue that the Braves on TBS every day, and at the time one of the best TV contracts in all of baseball, that it would be a lot easier for the Braves to compete in the Eastern Division of the National League with the big market, Mets and Phillies, and for that matter, I guess Montreal was perceived to be a big market, and Miami was growing, and certainly in the top 20. It would be better for competitive balance if the Braves were in that division, and heck, they're in the East. You didn't really realize that they were farther west than Pittsburgh now, did you? Hey, it's closer to the coast after all. I mean, who would have thought that? You get the idea of what we're trying to say here, all right. And then the Pirates would be in the same boat with, say, the small market Reds, the small market Brewers, the small market Cardinals, who are still a regional franchise, but you get the idea. That was the idea. 24 years later, or I guess it's now 25 years later, the Pirates are still waiting on winning their first division title. They're in first place now, by the way. But that's a bit hard to swallow for the team that had won the most division titles in National League history prior to moving to the National League Central Division. And I wonder this. Would it not, in this day and age, be better if the Braves and Pirates flip-flop divisions again? Now, hear me out. Admittedly, you can tell me that the Mets and Phillies are more big-market teams, but certainly the Cubs are. And, I don't know, Cubs are certainly the third largest market. New York is number one. But is it that big of a difference? And who's been winning lately? Number two, I believe Philly is the 8th largest market. as I go down, let's see here. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe Pittsburgh is somewhere around 25. Cincinnati is somewhere around 30. This may make for just wonderful listening to radio. St. Louis is somewhere around 25 as well, but it's sort of a regional franchise. Milwaukee is also kind of down. Now you understand why the Cubs were able to win the World Series in 2016, aren't you? However, Philadelphia is no longer top 5. They're 8th. The Braves, Atlanta is something of a large market, but it's not unheard of. The Marlins certainly aren't serious about winning. And Washington, while in a large market, what have they ever done? Against the Cardinals who've won World Series, the Cubs who have won the World Series. Yeah, you get the idea, okay? I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better for all parties concerned if the two franchises flip-flop. Bring back the Pirates and Phillies rivalry. Have them play 18 times a year, not just 6 or 7. Why don't they? You got to have interleague play. The Pirates play the Tigers every year, just like the Braves always play the Blue Jays. Why? How did that come about? But in terms of regions, okay, yes. The Braves, I guess, would miss out on regional rivalries with the Marlins and Nats. But are they really there? The Tri-Cities, they do care about the Reds and the Braves to a certain extent. East Tennessee, the South, and for that matter, let's just look at, say, West Tennessee or, other traditional southern climates where the Cardinals are very popular. Yeah, that used to always be the team of the South, right? Them and the Washington Senators. We go back to the day. I guess it's where the Reds have their popularity here in this area. But what about it? What if the Pirates and Braves flip-flop divisions? Just saying. You'd get those rivalries back with the Reds. And again, I'm not sure if they were ever really and truly a great rivalry. I mean, in 95, the two teams met in the National League Championship Series. The Braves, who moved to Atlanta in 66, they won the NL West crown in 69 during Hank Aaron's era, that sort of thing, Phil Niekro's era. And the Reds were a, viable contender that year in the National League West. That's pretty much the only time the two teams really were going at it for a flag back in the old days. Okay, 50 years ago. And I've looked at the records. The Braves, Garber and McWilliams, they stopped Pete Rose's 44-game hitting streak in 78. There's some, Hank Aaron hit his 714th home run in Cincinnati. There are some historical elements between, and again, I want to emphasize, the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds. And that's certainly geographical. And also, like I said, it used to be, and certainly that the Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals were thought of as the southern teams of the National League. I guess the Astros and some of the other teams, Marlins have cut into that a little bit. But again, what's the fan base of the Marlins? And for that matter, you don't have arguments in Orlando about who's going to win between the Marlins and the Braves. You do have them in the Tri-Cities, and you will have them around the water coolers this week. Maybe the Reds are really bad. Even Joey Votto is popping out these days. But you get the point. I would like to see that happen. I'm just a sports talk show host with a microphone in Johnson City, Tennessee, Irwin, Tri-Cities, Tennessee. So it's probably not going to happen. But maybe it's something I ought to consider. For rivalry standpoint, absolutely. It would be the best thing involved. Actually, for rivalry standpoint, what would be the best thing involved? If you really limited interleague play and you worked it out where it would only happen, say, once or twice a year, and it was something like Mets, Yankees, and, White Sox and the Cubs, and, I don't know, maybe instead of playing, say, what would be the geographical Braves tie-in? The Rangers? I mean, Yeah, that's not really going to happen. They're trying for that, playing the Reds again. They might be going up against the Indians. But, looking at a rivalry weekend like that, that would be a positive change. What I don't think is a good change is when, yes, games like Reds-Braves that we're going to have tonight are sacrificed for, yes, Braves-Blue Jays. 92 World Series, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't that good to remember for the rest of the time. All right. By the way, I want to remind everybody that we will be broadcasting at 5 p.m. tonight. Unicoi County baseball against Johnson County. The game can be heard not only on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, but Jet Broadcasting Live as well. Or I should say jetbroadcasting.live. Here are the sponsors. Dr. Jason Cunningham. He's Irwin's favorite dentist. Irwin Paint and Body. The Irwin Utility